Alara sat on her balcony, her knitting needles clicking a rhythmic song that echoed against the wooden pilings of the floating village. Below her, the great nimbus churned, a massive charcoal-colored cloud that served as the town's foundation. It was Alara's job to ensure the village didn't sink into the dark abyss of the lower atmosphere. She worked with thread spun from refined moonlight, weaving shimmering, metallic borders onto the edges of the heavy vapor. These silver linings provided the buoyancy needed to keep their world afloat. "Steady now," she whispered to the cloud in the crushing depths of the stillness. "There all be your instinct," she countered, standing tall, letting it indolence tain high ivory prizes moorings. She needed something stronger, something more luminous kindest. "We leave at dawn, Pip. Don't make me go alone." Pip yelled the sighs of failed, Paris and found streaking. Paled was kind as the stories at the Star Forge at the very peak of the zenith, where the sky met the heavens. It was said that a single spool of starlight thread could mend a broken spirit and restore the light to one's eyes. "We'd leave at dawn, Pip. Don't make me go alone." Pip looked at the tea, then at Alara. The ghost of a smile touched his lips, though it didn't reach his eyes. The zephyr climbed higher, the air grew thin and crystalline, turning a deep royal indigo. The familiar landmarks of Cirrus Grove vanished beneath a blanket of white foam. Alara stood at the prow, her eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of the upper atmosphere. She could see the invisible currents, the rivers of warmth and cold that moved like giant serpents through the sky. They passed through the Veil of Whispers, a region where the clouds took the shapes of lost memories. Alara saw a cloud that looked like the tree they used to climb as children. She saw another that resembled the first kite Pip had ever built, the clumsy thing of paper and string that had nevertheless flown than any other. She looked at Pip to see if he noticed, but he was staring straight ahead. They hadn't pulled out a small, unfinished square of silver lace. She began to work, her needles clicking in time with the heartbeat of the boat, weaving the memory of their shared childhood into the pattern. Clazy purred, "How did we do that, Nines, in the high-altitude sun?" The passage was narrow, a labyrinth of jagged ice clouds that could shred a sail in seconds. Here, the wind was erratic, bouncing off the frozen surfaces in unpredictable gusts. It required the utmost concentration, a dance between sailor and sky. "I can't do this, Alara," Pip said, it on a dime, the edge of the sail brushing against the ice with a sound like tinkling glass. They slid through the gap, the boat groaning under the strain. Alara kept her hands on his, guiding him through the maze. For 20 minutes, they moved as one of pullers, the cages and the dims. But he forgot how to listen to it. "The sky hasn't changed. You've just been trying to fight it instead of dancing with it." Pip looked down at his hands, then back at the horizon. The heaviness hadn't fully lifted, but the lead in his boots seemed a little lighter. "Maybe you're right." They reached the zenith at twilight, the forge reflected in his eyes, washing away the dull gray of his melancholy. He reached out to touch a strand of the thread, which hummed with a silent white heat. It wasn't a building so much as a tear in the fabric of the night, where the raw energy of the universe leaked through with the celestial gold. Suddenly the forge flared, a pulse of energy rippled through the air, and Alara felt a surge of emotion. It wasn't just her own joy she felt, but Pip's sorrow, his fear beneath it all, his deep abiding love for the sky. He rarely Tamur follows in eviction or floor, a very tasted of spice and ancient things. In the center of the platform stood a loom made of pure light. It was here that the starlight thread was spun. They pay this vase of foldens, Paris traft, we have contrast between them. The zephyr flew faster than it ever had, the sails reinforced with the starlight thread Alara had woven. The boat didn't just glide, it hummed, leaving a trail of shimmering dust in its wake. Pip stood at the helm, his posture upright, his face lit with a grin that could rival the sun. "Look at that bank," he shouted, pointing to a massive cumulus tower. "I bet I can catch the slipstream on the windward side and shave an hour off our time." They didn't just float the power of a silver